which is why the true sequel is Exorcism 3, which goes, in my mind, talk about a bad dream sequence in that movie. Oh my God. Patrick
Yes,
Ewing and
yes, but all-time jump scare. The
no,
single
absolutely.
greatest jump scare of
Yes.
all time, for sure.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, like no doubt about it. Hello, and welcome to the Etchcast. I'm Philip Gelatt, writer, screenwriter, filmmaker, and etc. And I'm joined today by a very special guest, Paul Tremblay. Paul's the author of modern horror classics like Head Full of Ghosts, The Cabin at the End of the World, horror movie, the epic free verse poem, The Beast You Are, and most recently, a YA novel called Another. Paul and I have been friends for like a while now. So, hi, Paul. How's it going?
Hey, Phil. Pleasure to be here. I feel like I'm just the etc. of the, I don't know. Yeah.
You're not just the etc. You're an important part. How long have we known each other? 10 years?
Yeah. I think it's 10. It's whatever. Yeah. Like 2016 or what are the Necronomicons? Are they on the odd or even years? Into 20, I don't know if we can mix that up. So maybe it was 2015. Yeah.
Yeah, 2015 would make sense. Yeah. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a strong friendship.
Yeah, it has been.
Happy that finally now you can be on this podcast together.
And I can finally tell you the truth of whatever you ask me.
Yeah, exactly how you feel about me. Okay, so I'm going to start with this new thing that I'm going to try. This is a blind item for listeners. So to find out what I'm talking about, you have to listen to the whole episode. One time, Paul recommended a horror movie to me. I put it on because Paul's got great taste. I started watching it, and almost immediately I was like, oh, this is some sick shit. I did not think Paul was into this kind of thing. So I texted him, and it turns out I'd put on a movie with a title very similar to the one he recommended, but not the actual one he recommended. So while you listen to the podcast, in the back of your mind, come up with guesses as to what the two movies were, and we'll tell you at the end of the podcast. It'll be very exciting. And while you think about it, note I did not turn off that sick shit. I watched it. I watched it all the way through and proceeded to recommend it to other people.
I'd like to add like a garnish to this by saying, like, when you sent me the email, I don't know if you remember you did this, you proceeded to describe pretty much the whole movie and would interrupt with, and Paul liked this, really? And it kept describing to like the final, like really most awful part of the movie. And they said, oh, and then I realized Paul had recommended X, not Y.
Paul did not like this. Paul hasn't seen this probably. So ostensibly our topic today is we're going to talk about horror, of course, horror tropes in general. And I kind of wanted to start just by talking about like terminology. Like what does one mean by a horror trope? Like what to you, like what do we mean by that term trope, and in particular for the genre of horror? Like what are some horror tropes,
Well, I mean, I guess for me, tropes are sort of things or themes, or really even sort of like sometimes it's very specific, like monster or creature specific, the things that keep happening in horror. And I find it kind of annoying that trope discussion really becomes like discussion of subgenres or marketing subgenres, because that has no interest to me.
Wait, can you give me an example of that? Like what's an example?
Yeah, or I mean, just even maybe the way like some people, and I understand if it's like an image heavy social media like Instagram, like trauma or body horror, like, and that's like arrows pointing to things. I'm like, is that all that we're discussing about? I'm not even talking about my books, but like other people's books.
Yeah.
I guess more macro would be like, the trope of a vampire or this or that. I don't know, I find myself thinking more about like they're more sort of like writing quirks of horror that like I don't enjoy, like something like I mean, I guess the trope, and this happens both in film and in writing, where whoever's directing, making the movie or writing the book says, oh, I need a scare here, so I put in a dream. And sometimes, especially in movies I think are sort of notorious for like playing it as real, and then they cut open and it's a dream. Nothing drives me more crazy. Horror is not the only place where it happens. Like even one of my beloved writers, Roberto Bolaño, was not above putting in a strange dream sequence just to punch things up.
Dream on there to get
yeah. But in horror, I find it really aggravating because it's there because like the story wasn't strong enough to like pull the reader along. They felt like, oh, I had to have a dream. And I think in Hollywood, especially the big studios, I'm sure you could tell me more than I could tell you. Like I think it's infected like how they teach screenwriting. It's like, oh, you have to have these beats. And I've heard a couple of famous horror screenwriters talking about you have to have a scare every 15 pages. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, how about just tell the story? And if the story's good enough, you're going to have the affect and the effects that you want. So
yeah, totally.
that's a long-winded answer about tropes, but that's the one that definitely gets me the most. I think the rest of them you can do stuff with.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. There must. So I'm going to tell you my least favorite trope.
Sure.
The dream thing. I completely agree. I will tell you. I think in my screenwriting career, I've done it once, and it was specifically at the request, almost of what you just said. Where it's like, oh, we could use a scare here. No, make it like the character falls asleep, and then it's they wake up. I mean, I've seen it done sort of well. Like if you think about this is just on my mind because I just rewatched it. Like the beginning of Romero's Day of the Dead, where she's like, and it's like it works, I think, because it's sort of surreal if you remember, but she's in a weird like white brick room, like, and there's an emotionality to it. She's like really upset, and there's the calendar, and then all the arms come out, and then it's actually not.
Oh yeah, the arms one, yeah.
It's not even. It might actually be like a daydream. Like it's not like you come out of it and her eyes open, and anyway. It's not clear that it's what it is exactly, but it works, I think. But yeah, largely it sucks.
Yeah, no, I mean, it has to have a purpose beyond just being the cheap scare. Like as you mentioned, the emotionality, or if you're building character, obviously this isn't to say you can't have dreams in your fiction, but it has to serve the story. I mean, hell, the book I have coming out next summer is half dreams.
I did have a follow up, which is like, okay, so tell me about the times that you've tried to take that trope and do something interesting with it. But that's I didn't know that what happened in your next book. That's
well, I mean, I don't know if I've like specifically said, oh, like I'm gonna. Usually, it's like I'm looking to take that out or avoid it, when possible. Unless it's something like I wrote this weird narcoleptic detective novel where, when he's falling asleep, there's important things that are character and plot that happen while he's dreaming. And similarly with next year's Dead But Dreaming of Electric Sheep, I mean, half the book is in the head of this man who the medical folks have said, oh no, he's not conscious, but he is conscious and he's going through like a phantasmagoric hell. There's a reason why we're in his head for his sort of quasi dreaming. I mean, so that stuff's great. It's just, like I really, reject the idea of like a horror movie has to have a scare every 15 minutes.
But so let me, I'm going to dig on this for one more second. Yeah. So would you then put in the same category, like you see movies in a TV, you see a ton where, where a jump scare is constructed for the similar like the fake jump scare, right? Like they go outside and then there's like a pop, right? Right. It almost feels like it's the same.
It is.
It's a similar thing. But I think the dream is slightly more offensive because in the dream version, you're being like told a part of the story that doesn't matter really. Right. Whereas the jump scare is more just like, I get it. Like you had to, give me a little adrenaline burst there.
Sure.
It's not wasting your time with a dream, I suppose.
Yeah. No, I mean, certainly not against like, having fun with horror stories, particularly depending on the story. Like it's Evil Dead 2. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure there's a couple of those. Like they have fun. Like I think there might be a little bit of a pre-jump scare before, like the dude jumps up as fully transformed and things like that. I mean, yeah, I'm not above fun, but the question you should ask yourself if you're writing or filming is like, if this dream isn't here, is the story the same? Like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so my least favorite trope, because we're talking about least favorite, we should think about our favorites, but let me talk about my least favorite first. And it's like, so there's many, it comes in many guises, but the worst version of it is the like expert who zooms in via video call sometime at the end of the second act, beginning of the third act, to like explain to the characters like what's going on so that they can like overcome or like whatever it is. It was like the Zoom call version of it was like super prevalent for a couple of years. I think we're past that now. I've heard Stephen Graham Jones refer to that character as an exposition Indian. I think in the specific movie, he was like, yeah, then an old wise exposition Indian comes in to like explain explain like what.
Yeah, I think that's an Antlers.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly that one. Yep, that's the one. And I hate it. It drives me
yeah,
crazy. Honestly, it's to your point about the dream thing. It's almost you can do the same exercise, which is like, okay, so what if you were telling the story? What if you were telling Antlers, or what if you're telling? I think Sinister has one. I think
mm,
trying to remember. There's a couple others. Like, what if you had that movie and that just didn't happen? I think it is. I think it's a better movie, like a scary
right.
movie. Certainly,
Yeah,
yeah, it's interesting.
yeah, no, for sure, I agree. I mean, because I think it just represents like you could have tried harder writing wise. Yeah, I'm thinking of what's the first Paranormal Activity where
Hmm.
they hire an expert to come in. Although in some ways that's a little bit fun because that's like the first movie that I can remember they hired the expert who is like, "Oh, I can't help you." Like you kind of expect the
Yeah,
next
yeah,
beat that he's going to be there, the séance. And I kind of enjoyed, especially on the.
yeah,
I feel like that's other people have now sort of used that, but I don't know if you
yeah.
do something that's a little bit fun or smart with it. That's okay, I guess.
Yeah, but I do like to the broader discussion. I think that represents like a writer, filmmaker, whatever, who has engaged with the trope enough to understand like one little thing they can do differently to it to make it
Yeah.
interesting and fun. I mean,
Right.
even like to go farther back, like that's sort of what um the I don't know what she's a psychic in Poltergeist, like the little woman
Yeah.
who shows like
Yeah.
she's sort of serving that function. But even in that movie, she's so strange that
Right.
it like it
Yeah. She's
contributes.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, she contributes more than just the exposition or just the explanation. Like it has a whole, there's a whole other purpose being served there.
Yeah. I
Um,
think Mallerman does actually a fun thing with it in his novel, Incidents Around the House, where they hire like a demonology expert sort of thing, and he's sort of a younger person. He shows up and he's there for like multiple chapters, doing sort of like, at the time, like rolling my eyes, like, okay, the expert's here. But for him, like, and sorry if this is a minor spoiler, but like when the presence makes itself known, he's like just overcome with awe and he's like, oh, I finally got to see it. And then he takes off. He's like, that's all I wanted. Essentially, he just wanted to finally, like, he was posing himself as an expert because he just wanted to experience it. And once he did, he left, and
I
he
love
never
that.
he
I've read
never
that
comes
book.
back to the book again. uh, yeah. So again, now the family like is in a lurch, like because they've seen this thing happen, and it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
what? You're leaving? So it's just a fun sort of like twist on the expert like
Uh,
hightailing out of there, but
yeah,
not because they were frightened, but because they
yeah,
finally
because they
got to
like
see it.
saw
Yeah,
like I love that spin on that character. Like I love,
yeah,
yeah, like paranormal investigators who are driven to like see a thing, but not out of just out of that like the desire to know, to
yeah.
confirm, to experience. I think that's awesome. I So it came to me. I think the most egregious dream dream trope abuser is 1408. Have you seen 1408?
I haven't. Yeah,
Okay, so the movie bills itself. No, I'm just for a moment. I'm just going to rag on
yeah.
it. It bills itself as being entirely set in this one hotel room,
Hotel
right?
room.
That's the haunted room, right? But then in the middle of the movie, like he gets out of the room and he's on the beach and he goes to other things, and it's like in my mind, it's 15 minutes of the movie
Yeah,
entirely like I guess a ghost based dream, but
yeah.
it's still the same thing. It's like, what do you either like commit to your gag and you're like just in this hotel room and it's just that,
Right.
uh, or don't do it. Because why?
I agree.
Don't mess around. Okay, so do you have like I've got two questions. Do you have like a favorite horror trope, like a thing that you like it when it shows up, and you're like you're sort of into it regardless of how it's deployed?
Man, I should do more homework.
I mean,
um,
I'll talk to
I
things.
mean, I don't know if this is a trope. I think this is probably fairly obvious, but like, it's not necessarily an ambiguous thing, but I suppose it is. But I do love a movie that will play with is the supernatural or not, and try to keep that tension for as long as possible, whether or not it ultimately ends up as ambiguous or not. Um, and I think that's hard to do because it can skirt, uncomfortably close to another trope of using like mental illness as a source of horror. But there's so many films that can do like clever things with that. Something I think one of my favorite examples, and I wish I wrote it, is take shelter. It's I think most people wouldn't necessarily call that a horror movie. I think it is in some ways. In that I think it does I think it's very careful with its treatment of schizophrenia and how it's presented. And then with the images of a maybe apocalypse happening. So yeah, if you do that right, I'm a sucker for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, Mine, I sort of already said, I just, it's super cliche. I just love a paranormal investigator. I almost don't care. Like it
Yeah.
can be like just like can be a charlatan, they can be a pro, they can be anything. Like I'm kind of just there for that, really. In any way that it shows up. I think ultimately there are more tropes that I enjoy, but I also definitely enjoy them when they're done in like the weirdest and most out there way that I can possibly think of.
Yeah.
Like one of the I think emerging projects of this podcast is me trying to figure out exactly what my taste is in movies. Because clearly like I'm just really into like the weirdest shit I can possibly find to see, which is going to get back to our blind item. It's
Yes.
not that weird ultimately, but it is like I don't even like I'm more into a movie that like completely fails, but is trying something like completely out there than I am into like a thing that sort of fulfills every
Yeah.
beat, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Like, so I guess my question is like, what is Paul Tremblay's taste? What do you like, Paul?
I don't know. I guess I default or I appreciate things that aren't normally as explicit with violence, and it's not because it's a moral judgment, but just because it really bothers me. But that said, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is genius. The first one, the rest are trash. Which maybe isn't fair because I haven't. I know number two. I haven't actually haven't seen it. So I probably
You're on a
can't.
very pro Toby Cooper podcast and a very
Yeah.
pro Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah. No, but the first one is, a genius. And, Evil Dead 2 is like one of my favorite movies. I don't know. Like, this is probably obnoxious saying this because it implies that like I'm smart enough to see this too, but like, just give me a movie where everybody's doing smart things,
Yeah.
and you can do all sorts of stuff. And I'll be with you. I find it like really almost like I love the commercial. Like, what's that? It's like it's some insurance commercial where the guy is hanging up the chainsaw and like the victims are like, oh, let's hide over there.
Yeah.
It's a very funny commercial, even after the 100th viewing.
Yeah.
But like there's someone at school who like actually reads a lot of horror and we talk a lot about, and he just said almost like offhanded one time that like, oh, that's sort of like a prerequisite to horror. You have to have stupid characters. And I was like almost like personally offended. Not almost, I was. It's like, no, you don't. So I guess my taste is I need smart people. Like I'm not interested in, just like the kills for the sake of kills. Again, not a moral thing. It's just my own thing. Like even something like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which I love. I don't think those characters are stupid.
Yeah.
I think even the ones that die, they're annoying. They're bad people, but I think, they were all given some sort of at least baseline of emotional intelligence and intelligence.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about your student's question. I think that's a fascinating question. I don't know that it's a prerequisite for horror to have stupid characters, but I think it's a consequence of how people like the genre to work that it often ends up with stupid characters, right? That's probably what's going on there. Or
Yeah.
going on there, I think.
Well, I get those are the horror movies I don't enjoy typically. Like I am not a Friday the 13th person or really other than the first Halloween because by and large, all those characters are idiots. Like I just don't necessarily enjoy watching them be less afraid than I am because I'm still scared of Jason jumping out,
Right.
and everybody else. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting. What are some examples of like horror movies you think that have really intelligent movies or books, I guess, really intelligent characters? 'Cause I'm trying to think of like I think what you said about Tucker and Dale is like great comment. Like there's an emotional intelligence there. Like they're sort of coded as bumbling, but they're not, there's
Right.
I don't know, like emotional intelligence, I think is just the best way to put it. Like I'm wondering, if you have other sort of stand-up examples of like, intelligence in horror storytelling, intelligence in characters in horror.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not to say you can't make bad decisions, but like the decisions have to be reasonable, right? Not just like, obviously, I think the biggest trope of all, like, which hopefully people do, is like, "Oh, let's split up. You go down there by yourself," things like that. Or even, anyway, at this point, depending on where you're setting the story, you have to assume people are culturally aware of horror movies.
Yeah.
The other side of it, though, is I hate it when people sort of like are too much like, "Oh, this is like a horror movie," and everything's a joke.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like, I don't know. I gravitate toward people acting like people. Um, I don't know. So I mean, I've proselytized to you enough times, like Mariana Enriquez's Our Share of Night, as an example of smart characters who make bad decisions often. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think all the people that can we reference First Word in Horror, like all those writers that you've had on there. I think all their characters feel like smart, real people, and that's like when I'm most engaged in horror because I'm concerned about what's going to happen, and I want to learn about like what are those people going to do if I'm ever in that situation. So, I mean, I would just probably just list off like all my favorite movies, like like Mungo, even like Jaws.
Yeah.
The main characters are all smart. They're not doing dumb things. Even though Quint does some irrational things, I think his character is set up well enough that you can believe that he's gonna push the engine till it blows up.
Yeah.
Almost like acting like Renfield to the Dracula shark, like bringing people out there.
I'd never thought about that before, but that's kind of an amazing analogy.
Yeah.
Like Quint as Renfield to Jaws.
Oh yeah, I know. Like Stephen Graham Jones always argues it's a slasher movie, and like I've tried to argue the reverse. Well, not the reverse, but no, it's a Dracula movie.
I don't think he
The
counts
second half of the movie. Yeah.
the second half of the movie. But I think like the weirdest thing about Jaws to me, and this is not a particularly deep observation, is that like it shouldn't be scary at all because all you have to do to avoid that shark is just not go on the
Right. Yeah.
like it's so not scary when you really think about it. But yet it's a testament to the the direction and the writing and all that stuff that it is that scary when really like most horror movies are predicated on like a thing you can't escape, a thing that's inevitable. Like
Yeah.
Jaws is easily escapable, not inevitable at all. like really easy to avoid ultimately.
Well, in the second one, if you thought in the helicopter I'd be safe, but no.
Wait, so when you watch Jaws,
Yeah.
which of the three characters do you most identify with? Like, do you have one where like, oh, I see myself in him?
Oh, I mean, I guess Brody the most, but like the character that I'm way more drawn to is Quint. Like every 5 years or so, I go into a Jaws wormhole, rabbit hole, I should say. And the last one resulted in me searching out and finding a play that Robert Shaw wrote called "The Man in the Glass Booth," and it's really wonderful. And actually, the copy of the play that I bought off of eBay, Donald Pleasance is on the cover, and it's a Nazi war trial play.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, I just was just got super into Robert Shaw, and then there was the year where this band called Squalus did like this doom metal rock opera Jaws. That's amazing.
Wallace?
Squalus is the name of the band. Yeah.
I love that. Did you see when his son did a play, right, where he played him, right?
Yeah, I did see that was a thing, but I didn't get a chance to see it.
See there. So only within the last 5 years did it become apparent to me that it's the same actor in the Bond movie From Russia with Love and Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it's not that many years between them, but it's an advertisement for not drinking so much. Like he's definitely those were hard years for Shaw. Like
for sure,
prematurely aged. That's very funny.
I'll throw out like a super old movie that people are really smart, and they don't make movies like this anymore. But Them, 1954 is Them, and I bring that up because I watched that with my daughter. She made like a list of like older movies, horror movies that she wanted to see, and so we watched that, and I was just so pleased that that she loved it, and it wasn't slow. Like usually you assume, even for us, like a 54 movie, it jumps right in, does some really interesting camera work that Carpenter. Watching it now, like seeing like Carpenter sort of stuff. But everybody's smart. I mean, there's the exposition guy, but like he kind of needs to be there. Yeah, so I don't know. I just get excited when I see a smart horror movie because there's a lot of dumb ones. I mean, just like there's a lot of dumb comedies and dumb anything else.
Yeah, dumb characters are in every genre, but I do think just because horror is such a weird genre because it is like it. Well, let me make a broad statement.
Yeah.
Almost more than any genre, I would say the range of appeal goes from like, well, maybe comedy too, the very,
Mm,
very lowbrow to the very, very highbrow, right? So if you're
right.
at the very lowbrow end of it, I mean, it's sort of like you want your characters to be dumb because you can get those sort of like jump scares and the gore and
Yeah.
all the stuff. Like it that's what it's designed to do. But on the
Yeah.
opposite end, it's, obviously very different.
Right.
Um, yeah. And I guess like a comedy too, but other ones I think it's a little bit more like it doesn't have quite that range of like,
Mm.
you know, feel probably.
Yeah. And like in a comedy and horror, both rely on transgressions. And when it doesn't play right or it goes wrong, it's usually memorably wrong or memorably bad. And so like people associate like the entire genre with usually some of the worst
Yeah.
representatives of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, what is them? I don't know if I've seen them. What
Giant
is it?
ants.
Oh, that's okay. It is Giant Ants. That's what
Yeah.
I thought. Yeah. 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 Okay. I have to see it.
Oh, you do. It's really, really good. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, given 1954, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah. Like weird side moment. You were just talking about the age of Shaw. James Whitmore is one of the stars in the movie. And, spoiler, sorry for the 70-year-old movie. He dies at the end. I was like, God, it sucks. And we were like, oh, where did I see him before? And I didn't realize he played Brooksy in Shawshank Redemption. And Emma's like, oh, he just plays guys that die. Was her reaction. I was like, yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad career if you can get it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all right.
I just spoiled 2 movies. You're welcome.
Yeah, but from the audience in 1954 and I guess
Yeah.
1996
Yeah.
are very mad right now.
Right. Yeah.
Um, okay, so let's talk about this speaking of ants, giant ants. What about that trope? What about monsters in general? Have you ever written a thing that explicitly has a monster in it? I should know this.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. I love giant monsters. And for a while, fairly recently, I was like, oh, I have a giant monster novel in me. What ended up happening, though, was like over that 2 to 3 years, I wrote multiple short stories with giant monsters. And then The Beast You Are, uh, the
Yep.
the very free verse poem, long form poem, that does have a giant monster in it. So I was like, well, it was 30,000 words. That's essentially but never say no. Like I'm certainly, I know my antenna is always up for like some sort of
Okay.
large monster.
So two things.
Yeah.
I wanna take a moment out of the podcast to wholeheartedly recommend to anybody who's listening to read The Beast You Are,
Thank you.
Paul's free verse epic. And then I also want to say, I mean, one of my questions we sort of talked around is like, how do you use tropes or engage in tropes in your own writing? And I just want to point out that like the subject of the question was going to be like, how do you take a trope and make it your own? So you would take giant monster trope and turn it into like a 30,000 word free verse poem featuring animal characters.
Yeah.
That's a real like pick your metaphor, like a possession of or infection of or like complete transmutation of a genre into something uniquely your own.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate. Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean that was Love Watership Down. There's a book called Sharp Teeth by Toby Barlow, which was published in the early 2010 or early 2000s, not early 2000s, late 2000s. Anyway, but that's like a free verse LA werewolf novel, which is amazing. So I don't know, like, I don't know how you approach projects, but like and I'm happy that this is the way, like things that excite me are the things that almost invariably become something else that I want to try. Like I'm usually looking for like some little spark to help me, and I've been lucky that I've been writing long enough that like I feel mostly confident that like if I take something or borrow something from somebody else, that it'll be hopefully different enough by the time it goes through the Tremblay machine. I just refer to myself as a machine, a Tremblinator.
Oh man.
That's
Ideas
bad.
come in, books
Cut.
go out.
Cut. Oh. And I hear the Looney Tunes machine music playing. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, Paul's working on a new story. Sorry, I just totally derailed the podcast.
The podcast is all about getting derailed. At least in my mind. At least you might have a different opinion, but that's my opinion. Okay, so this is one of my favorite quotes. It's sort of on the topic of tropes. I'm gonna read it and then we're gonna talk about it. So this is a Stanley Kubrick quote from an interview about The Shining, and he's going to paraphrase Lovecraft in here a little bit. And I think about it all the time. I think it sort of relates to what we're talking about. It's kind of
Yeah.
long. I'm just going to read it in its entirety. So this is Kubrick. About the only law that I think relates to the genre, that being the horror genre, is that you should not try to explain, to find neat explanations for what happens, and that the object of the thing is to produce a sense of the uncanny. Freud, in his essay on the uncanny, wrote that the sense of the uncanny is the only emotion which is more powerfully expressed in art than in life, which I found very illuminating. It didn't help writing the screenplay, but I think it's an interesting insight into the genre. I'd read an essay by the great master H.P. Lovecraft where he said that you should never attempt to explain what happens as long as what happens stimulates people's imagination, their sense of the uncanny, their sense of anxiety and fear. And as long as it doesn't, within itself, have any obvious inner contradictions, it is just a matter of, as it were, building on the imagination, imaginary ideas, surprises, etc., working in this area of feeling. I think also that the ingeniousness of a story like this being Shining, is something which the audience ultimately enjoys. They obviously wonder as the story goes on what's going to happen, and there's a great satisfaction when it's all over, not having been able to anticipate, not having anticipated the major development of the story, and yet at the end, not to feel that you have been fooled or swindled. I think there's a ton in there to kind of
Yeah.
unpack, but like I'm curious if you'd heard that quote before, and like what about it strikes you before I blabber on about it.
Yeah. I hadn't heard the Kubrick quote before, but like some of that, he's quoting obviously or referring to Lovecraft. Who, when I hear the Lovecraft version of it, like he really leans into atmosphere and everything has to be atmosphere, and I sort of reject that part of it. But the way Kubrick puts it, he's definitely describing, not all, but many of my favorite horror stories for sure. We were talking about or we were discussing making characters feel real, feel like they're doing smart things. And in my work, that usually translate into I'm trying to make these things feel as realistic as possible. Like if there was to be like something that would border what a possession would look like, a head full of ghosts to me was like, oh, if this was really happening, this is what it would feel like. And you wouldn't be able to identify it. And so I tend to default toward like, oh, as Kubrick mentions, like you can't describe sort of the machinery of what's happening within the ineffable. And I think that is, of course, super powerful way to tell horror stories and tend to be my favorite kind. I mean, they're not all that way. Like, I don't think it's prescriptive that every horror story is that,
Yeah,
but he's definitely describing, many
yeah,
of my favorites.
yeah. And I think it is a pretty apt description of a lot of stuff you've written too, which I think is why I wanted to talk about it in
Mhm.
particular. Like it's such a fine line. So take Head Full of Ghosts. Like it's such a fine line to be able to exist in this kind of, let's call it, atmospheric ambiguity. But then I think that for me, the real trick is this very last thing that Kubrick says, which is like you have to get to the end and not feel that you've been fooled or swindled. And I think that's like
Yeah.
to dwell in the sort of ambiguity that you like to dwell on, and get to the end and not feel like like, well, that was like, why did I read that? Like
Yeah.
it's such a trick.
Well, if you go to
Yeah.
Goodreads, I think there are plenty of people who react that way to my stories, but we'll we'll put them aside.
Do you want me to go on there and just post this Stanley Kubrick quote there for all of them, for
Yeah.
all of them to read?
Yeah. Well, I mean, but seriously, no, I mean, that's something I actually, the latter part of what you discussed, if I'm going to use ambiguity, particularly in a novel, thematically or if it goes through the whole novel, I know that's a big ask for the reader. And that is something I do sort of consider heavily because I would never want, and I hope it, especially, something like A Head Full of Ghosts, it didn't feel like a Twilight Zone cheap twist. And, and that's not fair to the Twilight Zone because it's brilliant, but, it had a half an hour. It sort of lived for like the gotcha moment. Nick Mamatas always used to talk about, it's like, if you're going to have a twist, which I think is great writing advice, put it 2/3 of the way through the book. And I kind of feel like I do that more, or if it's not necessarily a twist, but like for me, like the big reveal comes hopefully at the 2/3 point. And then the last third, hopefully the tension's really ratcheted up because now everyone's reacting to that. Um, yeah. So like with A Head Full of Ghosts, I knew it was going to be ambiguous. To me, like that had to be the only way to tell the story. And if the story was scary at all, it was precisely because it was ambiguous. At least that was the hope. That's what I was trying to think of when I was
Yeah,
writing it.
yeah, that makes sense. Um, I have in my notes here to continue to talk about ambiguity, but I also
Yeah.
wanted to note before we do that if people have seen the first word on horror episode where I interview Paul, the word ambiguity comes up a lot. So let's just keep that train going.
Yeah. Sure.
Just why not? Just a little bit. I know people hate it. Um, and so is there anything like, do you have examples in your mind of things that are like too ambiguous? Like, have you ever walked out of a thing and felt fooled or swindled because it didn't give you enough? Or are you open enough to the experience that it's like, I don't need an answer. I'm happy to just sort of dwell in this, you know?
That's a great question. I wish I thought of more examples. No, I mean, there have definitely been times where I felt like it wasn't earned,
Yeah.
uh, that it felt like the cheap twist. Um, Man, I wish I could think of specific examples though. Sometimes I go the other way just because of how my brain works is where I'll assume something is more ambiguous than it isn't, which is maybe weird. Most people don't do that. Like when I first saw Robert Eggers' The Witch, the whole movie I was like, oh, like this is ambiguous. But by the end, I was like, oh no, wait a minute, that really happened. But like it sort of not ruined my first viewing of the movie, but it definitely made things confusing. When I watched it the second time, I'm like, oh no, there's no ambiguity. I would say almost like similar to I mentioned Take Shelter. I think the ending is more ambiguous than probably like the vast majority of people who have seen the movie. And that's not to say I'm right and everybody else is wrong, but I don't know. It's just sort of I default in that direction. So it would take a lot for me to be really upset with.
I feel like, but I
Yeah.
feel like it's almost like you are like, I'm gonna say aspirationally watching. That's not right. Aspirationally interpreting things as you're watching them, where you're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, this is real
Yeah.
ambiguous. This is great." And then you get to
Yeah.
the end, it's like, "Oh, never mind. No, it's
Yeah.
not. It's not at all."
I thought
Mm.
Texas Chainsaw was so ambiguous the first time I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, with that meat hook. What does it mean? It's a
Yeah.
metaphor. But like,
Do you have any examples? Maybe I've seen them and I'd be like, oh yeah.
well, I don't. I think I'm probably too much like you. I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever walked out of a thing. I mean, it even had like, um, because this is sort of an area in my mind where like art film and horror film blend a
Mm,
little bit. Like it's
yeah.
very to see like whatever we mean by art film. It's kind of a bogus term, but like movies that one would commonly call an art film tend to be very ambiguous.
Yeah.
And like I've seen ones, like so the movie Possession comes to mind, which is
Mm,
by Zalowski. It's a great movie. It's got Sam Neill and Isabel Adjani in it. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I
it's
have seen it.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the first time I saw it, my thought process as I was watching it was, I think I hate this. My second thought was, this is why art film gets a bad name. This
Yeah.
piece of garbage. And then the movie ended, and I was like, I hate it. And then about 24 hours later, I was
Yeah.
like, I think I love that movie. And then
Yeah.
like 48 hours later, I was like, no, I loved that movie. That movie was amazing. So I don't I guess I haven't encountered. I mean, like unless it's like something that I think is poorly made or something.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I haven't really
Yeah,
encountered.
I think it's less ambiguity, like, if I just don't understand the movie, like The Reflecting Skin. I only tried watching that once, like, in my early 20s, and
So
I
I've only seen
wasn't.
that movie once, but I really liked it. But yeah, I
Yeah,
could see.
I didn't get it. I probably hopefully would get it if I watched it now. I get more aggravated by maybe things that are, like, where it should maybe be a little bit more and, like, they over explain or do terrible, stupid things like, Jan de Bont's not Jan de Bont. That would be amazing if Jan de Bont did The Mist.
It's a much
How
different
did I
movie.
get that name?
This
Um,
grocery store needs to go 65 miles per
yeah.
hour.
No, but the movie version of The Mist, the ending, I hate with all of my fiber and being.
Yeah,
And I do think some of that is reflection of how much I love the original story, which does end in sort of an ambiguous way. But the movie ending doesn't work because, the main character just stops behaving like he would have behaved. And it's dumb. Like the army's just going to show up and blow the mist away. I mean, that's sort of the implication. They just showed up
yeah.
with helicopters. Oh, the mist is gone. We're saved. Anyway. I,
I would say I like that movie. I get, speaking of tropes that we don't like, and like I'm not a religious person, but I get it. I'm
mm,
tired of like a crazy religious person. Like I know that there are crazy.
yeah.
It's a thing that exists in reality, quite obviously. But like
Yeah.
when I encounter it in film, I tend to sort of roll my eyes and think, oh, can't we do something more interesting than this?
Yeah.
Because there is one in the mist, right? Like there's
Oh,
a nest.
yeah. 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 Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
I'm mostly on
well,
board with that trope.
well, I mean,
Don't tell
look,
my I know. I'm just kidding. Uh,
you're gonna write another free verse poem, and you're gonna like turn a rabbit into an evil
yeah.
preacher.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna be a whole thing. um, okay. Well, let me see what else I have on my list here. I want to talk. I'm now just moving on to other
Yeah.
topics. I want to talk about your daughter's artwork because it's amazing. We should plug it here quick. You're in her room.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's one of her paintings.
Yep.
Um, yeah, she's always been, always, well, thank you. I appreciate that. She's a art major in her junior year at a school in upstate New York. Um, yeah, she's just always someone who was just gravitated to drawing things. When she was, if you, I'm in her room now because my wife is doing work calls downstairs. We didn't want to have dueling calls. But if I panned out, like she's just drawn all over her walls, and we were fine with that. She even painted like a lot of the light switches, like the plates that go over them.
Mhm.
Some of them are quite fun. I forget which room it's in, but there's a Patrick Star with the light switches in his belly button from SpongeBob. Um, no, I mean, it's fun, and she's my horror kid. I don't want to leave Cole out, who's also a very talented artist. He's a musician and releases songs under the name Cole Calico. But clearly Emma's drawn to sort of a lot of the same things that I'm drawn to. Yeah, it's over the last few years, it's been fun to be able to collaborate with her on certain things, including First Word in Horror, as you kindly hired her to do the art for the movie poster art um, for my episode.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
She did good.
Yeah. And thank you. It was funny. She was like, oh, I like some of the stuff I had said. She's like, oh, I'd never heard you talk about that stuff before.
I'm passing it on generation to generation. That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to do. Yeah, her stuff is great. I mean, in every time you send it to me, it feels like it's even like sharpening and improving. So I hope that she continues because it's really cool.
Yeah. Thanks. No, I'm sure she is. And she's also an amateur tattooist. So she does a lot of dorm room tattoos, and bedroom tattoos over the summer. Like random people in the
Has
house.
she actually tattooed you, or has she
Yeah.
just designed?
I have two. No, I have two tattoos on myself there's a video component of this, I'm assuming. So where's the camera? This one was the first one she did. It's just a Huskadoo band symbol.
Yep.
And then this is the most recent one. That's a cover of Pyle's first record. That's exactly what it is. So yeah, I do like weirdly, oddly specific tattoos. Like there's no like American old style. It's like I'm basically putting stickers on my body. These are the things I like. Yeah.
That's awesome. I don't have any tattoos, but maybe one day.
Right. Well, I'm sure if you want one, Emma would happily give you one. So like right on the top of your head, like something.
I clearly I'm a skull tattoo kind of person. It's, in my 40s.
We can reference it later, but I know a certain movie character, movie villain, shall we say, that maybe we could get tattooed on you.
Okay, let me see what else I got on my list. Okay, it's October. I need to ask this question. Do you have Halloween traditions? What are you doing? What does the Tremblay house do for Halloween?
Yeah, it's so lame. We don't really have one. Yeah, we don't. Like that the closest thing I ever had is I used to, and this is like pre-DVD, I was watching the VCR tape. Like in the 90s, every year I watched Night of the Living Dead. Yeah. But then it became, I'm sure as you know, as a parent, like on the day itself, it became, we're taking the kids out trick-or-treating. It's not like we're going out to costume parties. Occasionally we'll go to a party, but I don't know. And I don't feel too bad about it because I watch and read so much horror throughout the year. It's like,
yeah. Look at all these posers. They think it just comes around once a year.
Yeah. No, I hope I'm not like that, but yeah. Exactly. I used to post on November 1st is like, happy, Halloween's over, like, carry every day like Halloween's in your heart or whatever people say about Christmas, right?
Yeah. But so you said you used to watch Night of the Living Dead. Do you still have movie traditions or no? You just don't because it's just all you do anyway.
Yeah. No more. I don't have a movie tradition on Halloween. Yeah. Because Lisa's not into watching horror movies. So if I'm going to watch it now, it's like I'd be watching by myself. And usually even though Emma would watch, like the kids we're doing stuff on Halloween and now they're out of the house.
Yeah.
So no traditions. I'm lame.
Yeah.
Oh, at school, I guess I do have a school tradition. On Halloween, I won't teach math. I'll show off like all my horror books. And I used to sometimes I would read bits of a story or bits of a novel to them. like a long time ago, I probably should have been doing this. I was reading them this really gnarly story, freshman in high school, The Harlequin in the Train, which is like the one cannibal story I've ever written. And the conceit is that these people were kidnapping people. It's almost like Fight Club for cannibals. We're kidnapping other people, killing them, but putting like their cut up meat and body parts into like Harlequin mannequins, leaving them out in the middle of the street or in front of a train. And when the train hit them, they would come out and eat the pieces. It was very weird, a very early story. And yeah, it was probably not the one to be reading to freshmen, but that was a long time ago when parents didn't care. Yeah. Yeah. So no, so at school, I do more celebrating of the Halloween than I do at home.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so this is a question that I have to ask because we on the podcast have been discussing often Rob Zombie's movies. Have you ever seen a Rob Zombie film?
I have never seen a Rob Zombie movie from start to finish, but I have once read a novelization of a Rob Zombie movie,
Which was
written by Brian Evanson, Lords of Salem.
Lord
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So if I had to recommend to you one Rob Zombie film,
Yeah.
it'd probably be Lords of Salem. I think it is the most it's the most up your alley in that it is unlike the rest of his movies. It's it's got some ambiguity going on. It's got it's in your wheelhouse more than it's not.
Yeah.
Not to say that you will like it, but it's to say that it's more. But if you read the book, I mean, you sort of have a sense of.
Yeah, I have very little memory of the plot of the book. I did weirdly once with my friend, Jack Harenga. You met him, right? There used to be a convention called Rock and Shock in Worcester. And there was one year where some of the Devil's Rejects actors were there, and like Kate Norby was one of them. So we spent like an hour talking to Kate Norby once. Because she was the Devil's, that's as close as I came to watching the Devil's Rejects.
But it didn't encourage you to run out and watch Devil's Rejects.
No, it did not. Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah, I don't know if it's your thing, but I think there's a chance you would like Lords of Salem.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, because it's very, very New England. Like it's very, I think they must have shot it in Massachusetts, at least parts of it. Yeah. I think he's from there. Anyway, I can't even remember why we started talking about Rob Zombie on this podcast, but this is my thing now. I'm going to ask everybody.
Okay.
if they've seen a Rob Zombie film.
You don't recommend his Halloween?
Well, no, I do actually. So I do. I almost recommend all of his movies. Just as like an interesting watch project. Like I don't sort of go back and forth. There's some of them I really love. There were some of them. The one called 31 is awful. Like that's the only one I kind of make it through. But his two Halloween movies are pretty interesting. And actually, just under Lords of Salem on our recommendation list for you would probably be his Halloween 2, which I think is a sort of stranger version of a slasher film.
Yeah,
it's almost like anyway, it's the whole thing. But like I think you can detect in those two movies, in all those movies, but those Halloween and Halloween 2 in particular, like there's a real, I think, like project going on there with like what if you made a slasher film that was as unpleasant and awful as it would actually be if a slasher was real. Like they're movies dedicated to like actual horror as opposed to, I think, most slasher films which are dedicated to sort of like titillation and like almost like the vicarious enjoyment of the murder, more than actually being scared.
All right.
So there's my intellectualization of watching Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Okay. Yes.
But I'd start with Lords of Salem, I think.
All right.
Not that you have to, but I'm just saying next year your invite to the birthday party at this house might not come if you haven't watched.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Okay, let me look at my list. I think I'm just about wait, so let's return to horror tropes for a second. Anything that we should have talked about that we haven't talked about? I'm trying to think. I'm going to ask you a specific question about a specific movie, which is The Shining. Like, do you think specifically the very end of The Shining, like that strikes me as a particularly ambiguous ending. Like, and I'm just talking about like not him dead in the snow, the pull out from the photo. Like, what do you think that means?
I mean, so I sort of assume like his spirit ghost is sort of trapped there now, or part of the hotel.
Yeah, but also because it's an old photo, like 1923 or something. Like,
like he's always been there.
Always been there.
Yeah. it definitely, infers something. Time is broken there. Something is broken.
Yeah,
But I'm glad someone's not there to a paranormal investigator doesn't show up to
yeah, exactly. Like
explain.
I ask not because I ask because
Yeah,
I love it as an ending. Like I love it that it presents itself as an answer, but like it's almost like an answer to what? You're I don't know like what was the question? Like why are you showing this to me? So I love that about it. So
yeah.
I-
I mean, it's a hard trick to pull off. I mean, especially, I mean, obviously, it's so iconic that like it's almost like here's an explanation for what happened, but it doesn't really explain anything.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
For a
on an
time,
emotional level, it feels satisfying.
yeah, I
Um,
completely agree. For a time, speaking of like wormholes or rabbit holes that one goes down, I was like convinced that that there was an explanation for that film was that at some point in the course of the film, Jack Torrance had seen that photo of himself,
mm,
and the entirety of his madness was actually based on him having seen a doppelganger of himself in 1923, and that
right.
spun him off into this. So then when I had that in my mind, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna rewatch this movie and I'm gonna look and see if I can find that photo on the
Yeah.
wall." It's not clear. I don't think it is. Like I have no idea. It's not necessarily there. But that's what I like about it, I guess, is the possible interpretation. I mean, notably that movie has people who are obsessed with different interpretations. But
Yeah.
um,
No, I mean, there's a similar ending to Lake Mungo, not to spoil it, but there's something with the photographs,
yeah.
um, to a similar effect.
Have you seen anything else that you liked lately? What should we like? Give me something else.
I mean, horror wise, I really liked Weapons, and I did not like Barbarian. So I was
Oh,
happy that
interesting.
I was happy that I liked. I mean, I appreciated Barbarian was doing something quote unquote different,
Yeah.
but it sort of broke all my rules of what we talked about before with smart characters. Like,
Yeah.
even like just the fact that when the woman shows up to the Airbnb, I was like, she's got a car. There's no way she's staying there. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way you would stay there. Um, and usually, like, I don't have a hard time with that, but I don't know.
I think it's a little bit like you can feel in Barbarian. I think you can feel it in Weapons too, but more in Barbarian, like how he comes from sketch comedy because
Hmm.
like that whole beginning circumstance tweaked ever so slightly is like it's sketch comedy.
Yeah, no,
Like
that's a good point.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And I think Weapons is sort of that way too, but I think it's more fine tuned and just as you say, the characters are better put together. I think in Weapons.
right. Otherwise, I read John Langan's new collection, Lost in the Dark and Other Excursions, I believe is the rest of the title, which is amazing. He has a really wonderful story that sort of the title story documents a found footage film. It's probably as close as you can get to doing sort of of getting the effect of a found footage movie on paper.
Oh,
Um,
fascinating.
yeah,
Is it out that collection?
yes, it's fairly. It came out in August, mid to late August. Yeah, so it's still fairly new. Um, Also just read Samantha Schweblin's. She's an Argentinian writer, um, whose stuff maybe most horror people would think. I guess I would describe her fiction as more as weird fiction, not outright horror. I think this collection is her most accessible. That's not necessarily as to denigrate her other works, which I also love, but it was a really good. It's called Good and Evil and Other Stories. And I'm reading Mariana Enriquez's nonfiction travelogue to different cemeteries.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I saw that was out and I thought that
yeah,
was cool. Um,
and I am going to the Telluride Horror Show Thursday, so yeah, I'm hopeful to be able to see some new movies.
well, that's fun. Will you do an outdoor reading? Do they do that
Yes,
every year?
yeah.
Nice.
I think I'm going to go way indulgent and read uh, the 5 minute static scene from horror movie. I mean, because most of us, horror, when we do readings, like you're kind of reading from the beginning because you don't want to spoil something.
Yep.
And usually my favorite things to write are much more toward the end.
Yeah.
Like I would love to do a reading series where we invite writers to read like their last like 5 or 10 pages.
I
I think
think
that'd
that's
be
cool.
really cool.
Yeah.
You obviously have to do it for books that have been out for a while, but anyway, yeah. So I'm probably going to read from horror movie.
Nice. That would be awesome. I wish I could go. I had such a good time the year we went.
Yeah,
I have to make another movie so that I get like an excuse to go.
yeah. You should have sent them. You should have sent them first word in horror.
Yeah. We should have. I don't know why we didn't.
Hmm. I know. I probably should remind or reminded you, hey, send this.
I
So I
think
know
it,
they're showing a 2-hour documentary on Borman's. Um,
oh, I'm dying to see that, the
yeah,
Exorcist 2
Extras
documentary.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so that's something I definitely want to watch.
I've heard it's great. Do you know that movie? Have you seen it?
So long ago, but like I think I've read more about it than have actually spent time watching it.
Yeah, I mean it's bananas. But to my ongoing project of understanding my taste,
Yeah,
it's definitely bananas in a way where I'm like, that fucking movie. Like
yeah, I could
that's
see that.
yeah, yeah. That's a thing people should see.
Yeah, well, to tiny backtrack to what we're talking about, because I borrowed your copy of Sorcerer. So that was a movie where at first the ending I was like, "Huh, I don't know, I don't know," and then but like as days went by, I was like, "Oh no, no, I really like that a lot."
Yeah.
Yeah,
That movie's incredible. I mean, this is a pretty common knowledge at this point, but when I saw it, I mean, common knowledge that like it should have gotten like people should have been seeing that movie. Like it should be. I
yeah,
mean, it's one of the most incredible movies ever made. Um, it completely blew my mind when I finally saw it, which was probably like I don't know 8 years ago or something. Um, yeah, it's just incredible. Have you seen the original? Have you seen Wages of Fear?
no,
It's also very very good. Um, it's it's also must be from the 50s. But I
mm,
mean, it's great. It's great in its own way. And I mean, the Sorcerer definitely like takes it as like, what if I took everything to 11?
yeah,
What if I drove this giant truck across this rickety bridge, one
yeah.
foot at a time? Um, yeah, it's incredible. Wait, so where do you stand on The Exorcist as a film?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's
I'm sorry, because of William Friedkin. That's why.
oh yeah. Oh no, I mean it's a classic. I love the movie. Yeah, like I don't really have anything bad to say. I mean, to me, it's like one of the few movies that are so like sort of reactionary in its politics, but and also in its story sort of form, that I still enjoy.
Yeah.
No, I don't love the ending, or it's really sort of like the post ending. Like the trip down the stairs, fine, but like the ending where it's like it's sunny and Reagan's healed and she kisses the priest on the cheek. And it's like, oh, everyone's happy. It's like, no. I mean, that's kind of why I wrote A Head Full of Ghosts ultimately was like,
Yeah, yeah.
no, they would be fundamentally scarred and changed by this experience.
Yeah, honestly, I have a similar reaction to the movie. Like, I can't. It was so formative for me that I almost can't
Yeah.
see it really clearly. I don't think every time I watch it, like this is incredible. I intellectually I
Yeah.
understand, like pretty not backwards, but as you say, like retrograde in its politics and sexual politics certainly.
Yeah.
Um, I never really thought about that ending before because it is almost like if you read that ending only makes sense sort of. If you read the movie as like, oh no, the problem here is like female puberty, right? And like the issue is
Mm.
like she's cured of it, and therefore everything can be happy. If you read the movie that like the devil is real and it can take people over, like
Yeah.
that's not a happy ending at all. Actually, like everybody should be very concerned about that
Yeah.
from
No,
all time forward. Like
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which is why the true sequel is Exorcism 3, which goes, in my mind, talk about a bad dream sequence in that movie. Oh my God. Patrick
yes,
Ewing and like,
yes, yes, but all time jump scare, the
no,
single
absolutely.
greatest jump scare of
Yes.
all time for sure.
Yes.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And yeah, like no doubt about it. Um, okay, so normally we do what lurks in your queue, which is the things you have to recommend, but you already did
Yeah.
what
I already did. Yeah.
so we're done with that. Um, now before we reveal the name of the movies, Paul, what do you need to plug?
So, for anyone with a discerning 8 to 12-year-old, I have a middle grade novel out that just came out in July called Another, yeah, which I'm very proud of. I think it's fun, but takes, sort of what we're talking about. I hope it takes like the 12-year-old protagonist's sort of emotional life seriously, et cetera, and things like that. And then next summer, I'm really excited for my novel, Dead But Dreaming of Electric Sheep, which I'm so bad at like the pitch. We're sort of like describing it as like a mashup of Philip K. Dick, a Coen Brothers movie, and a little bit of horror, phantasmic horror.
It's pretty good. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
So yeah, I'm excited for that one. It took a chunk out of me writing it, which is sounds pretentious to say, but it's true.
Yeah, man. Sometimes pretentious things are true things.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just reality. Um, okay, so the name of the movie
A drum
goes
roll.
like
Yeah.
I love this movie called Terrified. And I went and watched the movie Terrifier,
Mm.
which, for those who don't know, features Art the Clown, who is a, I don't even know if you can call him sadomasochistic murderer, but it's like a super. I'm sure most people listening to this will have heard of it. It's super gory if you haven't seen it. Highly recommended if you're into gore. If you're not into gore, I don't recommend it at all. But why don't you, Paul, pitch Terrified
Yeah.
to people? Yeah.
So Terrified, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher the Spanish, or Aterrados, as it's called. It was an Argentinian, or made by the Argentinian director, Demian Rugnar, who also did last year's, I think it was last year, When Evil Lurks, which is another amazing film. So it's kind of hard to describe I'm going to screw it up and say Terrified. It really opens it like it's a haunted, possessed sort of, not only like at one apartment in particular, but it's almost like it leaks into like this whole like block within the neighborhood, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of weird shit that happens. And there is actually a scene where I don't know if they're full paranormal. Yeah, paranormal sort of detectives show up.
Totally.
They're kind of inept.
It's full of great tropes done in interesting, fun ways.
Yes,
for sure. Yeah.
And there's a scene in that movie that I won't spoil, but there's a scene in that movie which, geez, I know subconsciously, certainly. I'll just mention there's a dead child that sits at a table for a while. I love that scene so much. It just holds that, like, for, and it makes it makes attention so unbearable. Like, just camera sort of holds on the kid. There's people in the room with the kid waiting for, like, why is he here? How did it get here? And I know there's definitely some probably humor lost. Like, if I was Argentinian or knew Spanish, I think there's probably some humor to that scene that doesn't come through on just the subtitles. Regardless, yeah, it's kind of a movie, like, when you think of it, it's like, wait, the plot doesn't necessarily wholly make sense, but it's not supposed to. It's just really all this, like, almost like a dream logic, but not in a cheap, tropey way.
Yeah. Not like the kid wakes up at the end and the whole thing was a dream.
Yeah. No, it feels like an out of control dream. But like these people are stuck in it, and you're stuck there with them.
Yeah. Also a great jump scare. That's what I was going to say. Not quite as good as Exorcist 3, but
Yeah,
there's got a very strong jump scare in it.
and no serial killer slasher clown in that movie.
Who saws a person in half and they're tied upside down.
Yeah,
classic.
Lengthwise, right? Not
lengthwise. Yeah.
Yeah,
Spread down the middle.
Yeah. So that sounds extra to me than just the horizontal.
Okay, before we go, can you stand up and show us your cool t-shirt?
Oh, sure. It's from the British t-shirt company Last Exit to Nowhere. I've spent way too much money there. I have a great so a lot of their stuff, and it's not all horror movies that they do, like science fiction and even some comedies, but like all their stuff is sort of like clever. If you kind of only get it if you've seen the movie kind of shirts, which for obnoxious hipsters like ourselves, those are our favorite kind. So yeah,
favorite kind, the best kind.
I've spent way too much money at that place. So has Stephen Graham Jones. I know.
Yeah, I'm sure. So before we say bye, our episodes of First Run Horror are now on YouTube. You can go and watch them if you haven't watched them. Not
all of them.
Not all of them.
Oh,
just some of them.
Some of them.
Some of them. The first episode of each author will be on YouTube in the coming weeks. Yep.
All right.
So people should go watch.
So my mom can watch the first episode then.
Yes, I can also give you a link.
I know, yeah.
Episodes. Subscribe to our Substack at etchstudio.substack.com. Follow us on social medias. Thanks for listening to this amazing podcast. Thank you, Paul, for joining. This was a blast.
If you've made it this far, welcome to the shadows. Keep the stories alive by following us on social media channels at Etch Film. Want even more chaos and behind-the-scenes strangeness? Subscribe to our Substack at etchstudio.substack.com. A special thanks to our Substack subscribers. Your support doesn't just keep the lights on, it fuels this podcast and every oddball project we conjure. You're the reason we keep telling stories that shouldn't exist, but somehow do. From all of us at Etch, thanks for listening. Stay curious, stay weird, and we'll see you in the dark.